Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. My name's Tracy, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this really cute granny square. I call it the country garden. Could have called it the English country garden, but I'm just going to call it country garden. And the reason I'm going to is because I've got the green one in the middle and pretty colours all around. They look like flowers, and this looks like trellis to me, so it's just going to be called the country garden granny square or square. So the thing about this is it is very simple to make, but it's also quite time consuming, and the joining can be a little intricate. So you have to really want to make this one. I love it. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to make this one, and I will do something with them as a project because I don't really want to just waste it. I think it's just so pretty. So it's great for using up your scrap as well if you're just making a couple. I've got a collection of yarns that these two came in magazines when you buy it, and it has an amigurumi project that I always intend to make and never do, so I'm using those little balls for something else. The yellow was from a previous project and I can't even remember which one, but it is lovely and soft. These are all a DK weight because the UK has an abundance of DK. So quite a lot of my yarn stash and scraps are of DK, which is a 3 weight in the US. Now this green, I think I got it to become grass in a big kind of pixel blanket that I bought. But this is a Signet yarn. Don't know what that one is. It's lovely and soft. I haven't got a clue. And this was the only new ball that I opened, and it was a sheepis. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it, but I always call it sheepis, and it is lovely and soft. And this one is a Poundland, just the normal Poundland yarn. I'd already started on the ball, so I'm going to show you how to do it, as I said, but I've made a few already, and it just is basically comprises of these little tiny squares. Now I've made all of the colours, and I've made one of the peach, so that's what I'm going to show you now, how to do this last one in peach. So how I've set them out, you don't have to copy it exactly. You can choose whatever colour scheme you want. You can just or have all the same colour, or just do one of one colour, one of another. You can do whatever you want really, but I've chosen 1 green in the centre, 2 pink, 2 yellow, 2 mauve and 2 peach. So I just have to complete a peach one. So I'm going to move the rest of the yarn out the way. Now I'm also using a 4.5mm crochet hook because some of these are quite thick, these yarns, and for DK. Some DK comes up quite thin, but this one is quite a good one. So I'm using a 4.5, and you'll also need a pair of scissors and a darning needle, which is in here, and you don't need to see it because you know what a darning needle looks like. So I'm going to get some yarn out, bear with me a second, and we start with our peachy colour. And the first thing we do is make a slip knot. And I'm going to aim this as if you're a beginner. So normally I would just do my slip knot with my hook. But how I was taught is to make a loop, go behind it and pop it through and just pull it. And then you get a loop. I'll show you one more time. Make a loop, go behind it, pull it through, and you're done. So then you can just adjust it. Excuse me. So I'm going to make 4 chain, and we do that by yarning over and pulling through. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Need a drink. Yarn over and pull through. So we have our 4 chain, and we're going to make it into a ring by going into this very first stitch. We're just going to put our hook in, and we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. So we've made this little bitty ring here. Can you see that? I'll put my finger behind it. And that's what we're going to be working into, that little ring. So I always do 2 chain to get me up to the correct height, because I'm going to be doing treble crochet. Well, that's a UK term, a treble crochet. If you are in the US, you would call it a double crochet. But they are, for the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to use the UK term of a treble crochet. So just remember, when I say treble crochet, If you're from the US, it's a double. So to get up to the correct height, I'm going to do 2 chain. Some will tell you 3, but I always find that it makes a little bulge and I don't like that. So 2 is quite enough to get up to that height. Now to do a treble crochet or double US, we yarn over and we put our hook into the center of that ring, that little hole in the center, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we've got 3 on our hook. So I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2 of them, yarn over and pull through 2. And that's how we do that. I'm just going to zoom in for the next one and try my best not to go off the camera. So I'm going to yarn over, as it's zoomed in quite a way, into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So there's 3, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So now we have our cluster. If I take my hook out, we've got our 3. Now the first one is obviously the 2 chain and we've got 2 stitches. So now we're going to do 1 chain and complete 3 more. Just as we've done those 2, we're going to do 3. So it's yarn over and into the loop and yarn over and pull up. So it's 3, yarn over through 2 and through 2. And again, I'm just going to go into the loop and make 2 more. That's 1. And that's the 2. And 1 chain. So now we've got 2. I'm just going to zoom out because it's a little bit close and don't really want to go off the camera because of it. So now I'm going to done my chain. I'm going to do 3 more. Another cluster of 3. And if I'm going too fast for you, if you're a beginner, then by all means just pause the video and catch up with me. Having a bit of trouble leaning on my yarn, it's stopping it from flowing. I'm going to move it over. Okay, so 1 more chain. Now that's 3. We're going to do our last cluster. So there's 1. That's the second. If you need to, just pull it over slightly and do the last one. Now we're going to would normally finish on a chain and slip stitch into here, but I want to end with a perfect square and I want to end in the center so that I can just start my new color. So I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to go into the top of my 2 chain. There's the first one and there's the second one. I'm going to go into there, yarn over and pull up a loop just as we have been. So I've got 3 on my hook, but I'm not going to complete that stitch yet. I'm going to change colour. So I'm just going to get my scissors, snip off this colour and get my brown because that's the next colour. Just going to pull some yarn out. So I'm going to finish my stitch with the new colour and I'm going to do a half treble, and in the US that's known as a half double. And I do that, I'm just going to hold on to that yarn with my finger so it doesn't make my stitches loose, and I'm going to hold both in my finger and I'm going to yarn over and complete my stitch by pulling through all 3 with the brown. So I've completed the stitch with the brown and I'm going to turn it over and just, not this one, that's my yarn, that's my tail that we worked over before. If I snip that off, and you'll see more clearly, I've got 2 tails. The peach I've just finished with and the brown I'm starting, and I'm just going to make a little knot so that it secures it. So I don't want it to come undone. Now don't tie that knot too tightly because it distorts your stitches, but don't do it too loosely that it makes the stitches baggy. So just a nice little knot. So now we've finished and we're right in the middle of this gap. And so what I do now is I'm going to put my hook into the gap and yarn over and pull up a loop. So I have 2 on my hook and yarn over and pull through both. And that just makes it so that this brown is my first stitch inside the loop. And I'm going to do my 2 chain and I'm now going to do half of a corner. And to do half of a corner, remember this is my first treble crochet. I'm going to do 2 more. So I will show you a full corner in the next gap. So this is half of a corner now. I'm going to move those tails out of the way. I'll just zoom out a little bit. So I'm going to move them out of the way so they don't get in the way and confuse us. Now this is my next gap. There's my cluster. This is my gap. So this is a corner. We'll do 3 treble crochets. Just as we have been in the previous round. And now we're at the corner. We're going to do 1 chain and another 3 in the same place. And this will make a little corner. I'll show you when it's done. It just changes the direction that we're working in. We were going up this way. There's our half a corner and there's the new corner. So we've got this half and then we do our chain and it changes direction for us. We're now going this way. So all we're doing in our gaps now are making corners. So we're going to do that again. Do 3. One chain, another 3. Oops, went into the stitch. And then in the next one, a full corner, again, 3 separated by a chain and another 3. And this is our last one. So now we've got 3 full corners and this one half a corner. So we're going to complete that corner now by doing 3 treble crochets for the other side. Remember they are doubles in the US, not to get confused. Now this is our last round. Our squares are very small. So because it's our last round, I'm going to finish it exactly the same way as all of these are by doing the 1 chain and slip stitching into the top of our 2 chains that we started with, which are counting as our first treble crochet. So there's 1, there's 2, and I'm just going to slip stitch into that now, and I'm going to end off by snipping the yarn. And how I end off is by doing, looking like I'm doing a chain but pulling it down, holding this tight and pulling it down and pulling it through, and that cinches it down nicely. So what that's done is now made that corner identical in size to these. It's just got 1 chain. So that's our squares. Now you need to repeat that 9 times. However, whichever colour coordination you're doing, you need 9 squares. And so that completes my 9, and I'm going to show you how we join them. Okay, so these are the 2 I'm going to start with because I'm just going to start in the middle and it doesn't matter which direction you go in. So I get my 2 little squares and I want them right side facing. Now this will make an awful lot of ends for you to tidy up, because if you do this and you go down this side and then you join another one and go down this side, you get a little bit of a curve. But if you want it to look corners only, then you need to end off, start again, end off and start again. And that will, I will always try and crochet over any ends, but this does make a fair amount of ends, unfortunately. But it's worth it. Now I always leave a very long tail at these corners, because then if there's a little gap I can neatly sew it, just hook it together by going through like this and just neatly sew it into it so it's closed. So I always leave a nice generous tail. So what we do is we get our brown and we need to get, I'm going to try and zoom in, we need to get right into our center, you know, this one right in the center of our corner. So I'm going to try and get in so that I have the top 2 loops. So just hook it in and push it into there. So now I'm right inside there, but I've, rather than go in a sort of a scruffy way, I've gone in to the 2 loops. Now I've got to do the same again with this one. So remember, we want them right side facing, so I have to do this one kind of back to front. So I'm going to hook that into that loop and push it into this one. So now I've got those 2 completely secured. I'm going to leave a nice big tail, more than I need, and I'm going to hold it with my finger this side so that it's nice and snug and secure and won't come all the way through, and I'm just going to pull a loop through. So now I'm not going to tie it or anything like that. I'm just going to go in each of my stitches this side, making sure I go through both loops, and of that one, making sure I go through both loops. I'm going to yarn over, pull it through, and pull it through the stitch on my hook. So I'm slip stitching them together. Again, I'll go into the next one and the next one. So they're the ones that are next to each other, the corresponding one, and I'm going to yarn over and pull it through both and pull it through the one on my hook, making sure you don't slip stitch too tightly, because it will kind of pull and you'll have trouble. You have to kind of try and straighten it all out. You don't want it to be too tight, you want it to be just a good tension. So we're going to do that all the way along and into the next one, making sure you go through both the loops. In the next one, through both the loops, just move that tail out of the way so it doesn't confuse us. And we're going to, so we're into both of those next ones, through both loops, yarn over, pull it through it, and pull it through. Oh, sorry, I went off the, it's because I'm zooming. I'm going to unzoom. It's just too close. That's it. So I'm doing that again. This time I will stay on camera. So you go through that stitch, the corresponding stitch. We're going to yarn over, pull it through, and then we're going to pull it through that loop as well, making sure it's not too tight. Go through both corresponding. Sometimes it's easy just to slip it in. Other times you have to kind of look what you're doing. So we're getting near the end, and we're going through, this is our last actual stitch, and we're going to do our slip stitch, and now we're back at the corner. So we need to try and get into those both loops again of both corners. So we're going to just pop it through there, find the corresponding one on the other side, try and get through both loops, there we are, and just do our slip stitch. So if I pull that loop tight, and that's what it will look like. You've joined your 2 squares. Now it doesn't look like you've joined it all the way along, but that's what this nice long tail is for, is just for securing those corners when you come to have more than one. You can just sew them through, and that's all you do. And you need to just end off each time, and I do that like this. I'll show you, because just pull that down a little bit. If you end off at the top, then you get I get like a little knot at the top that I don't like. So if I turn it up the wrong way, I'll try and zoom in and not go off camera. Just want you to see. So there we are, that's the right way. And I'll turn it over, and the stitch that I'm in, I'll just pop my hook through, and I'll put my stitch on that hook. It is a little bit tricky and intricate, but it's worth it. And I pull it through. So now it's the other side. Snip off a nice generous tail, and you can tease it through. You can find that and just pull it through. It's there. So you pull the tail through. So now both of them are on the reverse side of the work. So you can just end off in the normal way, and you don't see it on this side. All I've done is pull my loop through, pull my yarn end through, and they're now on this side, so you don't see them. And with this one, you just sew it in the normal way and then end it and tuck it in on this side. But that's easy just by going this way through, pulling your end through, and then pulling the tail through and ending off, and it becomes on the reverse side and not visible. So you just carry on joining them in exactly the same way and tidy up your corners. So I'm going to pause the video while you make your squares and join your work, and I will come back and show you what I did at the border. I just want to show you how I mean about the centre. I've got all these ones that there's about 4 now that I've attached, and I've been putting my ends in as I go, so that it's not such a drastic thing at the end. So now I've got a nice long tail and I've got this hole. So what I do is I just close it by going through the ends. You can see that, and it keeps it nice and tight, just like it if you're slip stitching. Go through each one and pull it a little tighter, and again with this one just snug it together. That one had an end sewn in, so it's a little bit stiffer, but you can see that that corner is looking more defined and less like a hole in it. So once you've got it all together and you're happy, because I think that's more or less as good as it's going to get, we'll just put our yarn through the back and come out, and we'll just sew that end in, secure it and sew it in. If I can threadle it while I'm on the camera, that is. I often struggle. There we go. So, and we'll just, how I secure it normally is I'll just do one little stitch, only catch a little part so it doesn't go through, and then when the loop is small, just about this big, I will go through it with my needle and then pull it. So that's a little knot, and then I just snake my yarn through so it doesn't come through the other side. That's just the end of it, like that. So I've gone down, and then I will go around this part so that it's buried inside that corner, and I'll just go round one more time and come out the other side, pull my, where's my scissors gone? There they are, and just cut it off. So I've buried that one, but that's how I overcome when I've got that little hole. And I've got my nice long tail here just to tidy this one up when that one appears. But I've been sewing my ends in as I go, tidying up my ends and then sewing them in so that it's not such a lot to do at the end. So I'm going to carry on sewing mine together, and I'll come back and show you the border once I've done them all. Okay, so I have now finished sewing them all together, and you just need to kind of pull them out so that they're a nice square. And you will notice that some of these parts here are more raised than others. That's fine. We will sort that out when we come to do the border. So to do the border then, you get your brown yarn, which I kind of lost the end of, bear with me. And I'm going to leave a nice long tail to sew it in, and you join it at any corner. So I'm just going to go into this corner and bring a loop through like that, and then I'm going to do a chain using both the tail and the working yarn. Then I'm going to drop the tail. So now I'm just going to work over this tail, and I'm going to do 3 double crochet, which is a UK term. Don't worry that there's 2 loops on that hook, that's fine. A double crochet in the UK is a single crochet in the US. So I just insert my hook into the corner, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I would normally have 2 on hook, but obviously I've gone over that yarn, so there's 3, and I just yarn over and pull it all through all 3. So we'll ignore that one, it's not a normal one. But this is how we do a double crochet in the UK or a single crochet in the US. We go back into that corner and yarn over and pull up a loop. So we have 2. There's 2 on our hook. Yarn over and pull through both. Into that hook hole again, because we're going to do 3. yarn over and pull up a loop. There's now 2 on our hook, yarn over and pull through both of them. So that's our corner. We're going to do 3 of our double crochets in the corner. Remember, they are singles in the US. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go in every one of our stitches along until we get to this first join, and then I'll show you how I get past that. And I'm going to work over the yarn at the same time, so I'm just going to hold it at the back there, and as I go through, so I'm going to go in at the top of each stitch just as we have done just then, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of them. And I'm going to do that in every one of these stitches along here and catch that tail as I'm doing it. So we're just doing 1 row of these double crochets. And then when we get to the end, so now we've got our last one here before the join, and I'm going to do 1 in there. Now because this dips down and I want to go into this stitch here, I'm going to do a treble crochet in there. So that's yarn over, and I'm going to pop my hook into that join and pull up a loop, yarn over and through 2, yarn over through 2. Then in the very next stitch I'm going to do another double crochet and go over that loop. And all that does is straighten that edge out. So you can drop that edge now, that tail, and just carry on with those stitches until we get to the next little join. Do 1 in each stitch. There's our last one before the join. Now I'm at the join, I want to do a longer stitch, and I want to go into that join and yarn over and pull up my loop, yarn over through 2, through 2, and now you can see that is really straightening out that edge along there. And then we just continue going along with our double crochet, which obviously is a single crochet in the US, and going in every stitch, whoops-a-daisy, until it's a very long hook. This, I'm not used to the length, and I think that's why I'm catching other stitches, because it is a very long one. Easy to work with so far. Now I'm at the corner, and there's my corner space, which was my 3 trebles, 1 chain, 3 treble. So in there I'm going to do 3 just to turn the corner. That will give me enough to change direction, and so now we're along this edge, and we're going to do that exactly the same. Go in every single stitch along here, a treble crochet or double in the US in our joins, and it just gives us a nice straighter edge, so that when we're done, sorry, knocking the camera, you won't see it, it'll just be nice and straight. And that will be the end. I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to carry on doing my 3 in the corners, my treble crochet in the joins, just actually go into the actual join, and I will meet up with you when I get back to the start. Okay, so I've made it all the way back. I have just the one last stitch to do, and then I'm going to go into this very first stitch, going through both loops if I can, to just go into that very first one and do a slip stitch, nice long tail to sew in, and we're going to end off by doing 1 chain, pulling it right down, just pull this tight and then pull the yarn through, and then you cinch it down nicely, and that is how you finish it off. And as you can see, it makes a nice straight edge. You do need to kind of maybe block it or to pull it into shape once you join it with another one, or if what I might do is do some plain ones in the middle and just break it up, or I'm going to make a little project with it, but I'm not quite sure what yet. But I think it's really cute. It is quite fiddly, but worth it in the end. So thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, and you'll be informed when there are new videos and lots of giveaways etc. I do live chats, everything you can imagine. So just hit the notification bell and you'll be informed when they're up and running. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye for now.